This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Yeah, although prosecutors don't have to show a motive to get a conviction for first-degree murder, juries want to know the motive, especially when they see this clean-cut guy with no criminal background. They want to know why he did it. Now, I think it's coming into focus why he did it. He seemed to be a devotee of serial killers and crime. I mean, he studied under the BTK's autobiographer. I mean, he was so interested in true crime that it looks like he wanted to be the center of his own story.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, guys. Come on in. Come on in. Let me move myself up here. Welcome to Reporter Room. Today, we're going to be talking about the Bryan Kohberger case. So come on in. Tell me where you are from. It's great to see you in the top chat today. Thank you so much for taking time to join me. And after we do the Bryan Kohberger case, right after, I'm going to do a live stream, a separate live stream on the Emmanuel Hurrow case. So please make sure that you, after we're done here, come on over with me. So today we're going to be discussing new details about Bryan Kohberger harassing WSU students. I believe that this is why he got this plea deal. Bryan Kohberger is complaining. We have two different complaints and the prison response. He sounds whiny. So Bryan Kohberger also had marks on him after the November 13th attack. He didn't show up for classes at WSU. We're going to talk about the witnesses who what they saw on his body and what he talked about. Some very, very interesting things about that. And Bryan Kohberger complimented the person who committed the crimes against Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana. So let's get started. My name is Jessica Della Davies. I'm an investigative journalist, and my job is to investigate crimes, crime scenes, and potential suspects, and share with you how to do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, well, it's free, and I cannot get to 50,000 subscribers without your help. So please join the Reporter Room family and subscribe. Like, share, leave a comment, and know that everything I'm sharing with you is my opinion. This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. And I do want to give a shout out to our subscribers and our mods and our channel members. Our channel members are the ones with the blue, green, and red verified check marks, and our mods are the ones with the wrenches. So come on in. Tell me where you're from. You can tell me what country, what city, what state, what continent, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. So I want to talk about Bryan Kohberger and his history at WSU. This is absolutely horrifying. And my sourcing on this is USA Today, so let me pull that up. Okay. So this is my sourcing on this. And let me just move myself out of the way here. See if I can make myself smaller. All right, I think that'll be good. All right, we should be all able to see this together. Okay, so this is really disturbing, and we're going to be talking about his behavior at WSU as well. So let's dive into it. So my sourcing today is USA Today, and the latest batch of police documents have dropped, and these show that Bryan Kohberger's WSU classmates and professors viewed Bryan Kohberger as being arrogant. They viewed him as an arrogant student who sought to dominate class discussions. He would grow agitated when other people disagreed with him. He couldn't be wrong. And this makes me wonder about the relationship that Bryan Kohberger had with his lead defense attorney, Ann Taylor, because my take on Ann Taylor, and this is just my opinion, is also that she could never be wrong. So I'm just wondering how those two did in the same room together. I suspect it was like cats in a bag. But several female students reported to WSU feeling unsafe around BK, telling staff that they believed he followed them around campus. Let that sink in. You're a young female student paying to go to Washington State University, and this teaching assistant is following you around. You report it to the WSU staff, and they do nothing. Nothing's done. He's allowed to just continue on. Students also said that BK tried to intimidate people by staring at them, blocking them in doorways. And again, this is a way for BK to have exerted power and domination over female students by blocking them with his body and forcing the female students to either walk around him or go out a different way. Staring them down would have been a way to dominate and exert power by forcing these female students to have to look away from the man that was their teaching assistant at a college that they were paying to attend. So while this new document sheds light on his concerning behavior and BK's motives, they're still claiming that we don't know why he committed these crimes. I think it's pretty clear why he committed these crimes. I also think it's becoming more and more clear that WSU and University of Idaho, who tore down the crime scene, University of Idaho, whose president wrote a book about this, while everybody else, including the family members of the victims, were stuck under a gag order through 2023. But, this is why they did a plea deal. They didn't want all of this to come out. The last thing WSU and University of Idaho wanted was for female students to get up on the stand and talk about Bryan Kohberger and the fact that WSU did nothing to remove him. And the University of Idaho didn't want this to go to trial because he was in their student union, in their canteen, staring at students. How did he get access? They don't want to talk about that because it reduces enrollment. So this was so bad that a student was scared, was so terrified of Bryan Kohberger that she avoided walking alone. Get this, a sophomore at WSU told investigators about several uncomfortable, those are her words, and strange interactions that she had with BK. She said that BK began lingering around her while she was working on campus and once asked her to get coffee, which she declined. And, women have a right to refuse going on a date or going out with someone that they don't feel comfortable with, or maybe they have another relationship without having repercussions. It's called boundaries. And I think it's really important that we, take notice of the fact that WSU did not allow their young female students to have boundaries, in my opinion. When the woman was alone, the BK would go to the office where she was working and stand directly behind her until an advisor walked into the room. It's really creepy, you guys. Only then did Kohberger move away. This is what she told investigators. If you hear me using his full name, it's because I'm quoting directly from the source on this. The woman told her bosses about the incident, and they said they did not want her alone with BK, citing similar complaints from other students. This is according to police documents and an article that came out today with USA Today. And so this is why WSU would not have wanted students to get up on the stand one after another to talk about these incidences with BK, because they knew that this was a failure on their part. Now, I understand that it takes time to remove a student or a teaching assistant from the university. They have processes they had to go through, but there's no evidence they went through any of these processes. Nothing, nada, zilch. They could have had HR go back through his employment records, because he did lie about the times on his resume of the dates of when he started and when he left were much shorter than what he put on his resume. So they could have used that as an excuse. You lied on your resume and used that as a reason to get rid of him. They didn't do anything. I have heard no evidence from WSU that they did a single thing to remove this man. So this is why WSU could not afford for this case to go to trial. So it gets worse for these young students. Things got so bad that eventually one of her bosses, this young woman who he was standing behind in her office, trying to get her to go for coffee, which is inappropriate when you're a teaching assistant and she's a student. It's a power dynamic. It's not appropriate. Things got so bad that one of her bosses began driving her home so she would not have to walk by herself or take the bus. That's how scared she was. She had to be driven home by one of her bosses because she was not able to walk home alone or take the bus. This is absolutely ridiculous that a faculty member was having to drive her home, and WSU did nothing to address this. I don't see any information coming out from WSU, no response at all, that they took this. These are the steps we took to address this and remove him. We were in the process of removing. No, they didn't get rid of him until December 19th. And dollars to donuts. December 19th is the day the prosecution tells us that they identified Bryan Kohberger as a suspect, right? And that's December 19th. And that just happens to be the same exact day that WSU sends the email letting BK know he's been terminated. They got tipped off, and they did it to cover their own butts. They didn't care about their female students. On another occasion, BK cornered this same student standing in a manner where she could not leave without running into him, investigators said. She described this as scary, especially when she was alone. She said that of all the students she interacted with at the university, Kohberger was the one to make her feel uncomfortable. So this is really heartbreaking to learn, because this would have been so easy for WSU to resolve. They could have removed him. They could have gone through his resume where he did have discrepancies. I'll just call them what they are, lies about the start date and end date of his employment, but they did nothing. Instead, the faculty was having to drive her home. And she was not the only one being harassed by BK at WSU. Other female students described similar interactions with BK, in which he tried to assert verbal dominance in the classroom, in their discussions, staring at them strangely and looming over them. And again, I don't think this was accidental. I think he was intentionally staring them down, intentionally blocking them with his body language, and intentionally looming over these young women. It was about power. It was about control. It was about dominance. And it's absolutely beyond the pale that WSU did nothing, in my opinion, allegedly. Don't come for me. Or do. I would love to get you on I would love to do a deposition on somebody from WSU on camera. One student said she told her mother about BK and referred to him as that creepy guy. That's really sad. So Bryan Kohberger also had a reputation. So if that's not bad enough, it gets worse. He had a reputation for making male chauvinist remarks. Several, so not one, several students and faculty told law enforcement that BK had a reputation for not only making misogynistic remarks, he was making racist remarks in the classroom too. Again, WSU did what? Oh, that would be nothing. If you think WSU dropped, let's do a poll. If you think WSU dropped the ball on this, put a 1 in the chat. If you think WSU did a great job, put a 2 in the chat. Let's just see what your opinion is on this. So let's continue going through all of the feelings that WSU does not want people to know about. And that is the real reason I believe that this plea deal was agreed to. A faculty member in the criminal justice program told police that BK was a frequent topic of discussion at disciplinary meetings, where staff members would discuss complaints from students and professors regarding BK's behavior, including his concerning remarks. And as I reported out to you in the last live stream that we did, there's a text message from a professor saying, if we give this guy a degree, we're handing him a PhD and we're giving him a license to basically, harass people. So they were sounding the alarm. And again, what did the university do? Nothing. So he was the topic of discussion in disciplinary meetings, but nobody sent a referral over to HR to deep dive into his resume, or did they? And just WSU opted to do nothing and just hoped it would all go away. So I haven't seen anything from WSU that they took any steps to remove him. In the various complaints were about how Kohberger spoke to the staff and students. He stated his stating of outspoken discriminatory comments, which were he was xenophobic, he was misogynistic, He would stare at people. He would stand uncomfortably close or lean over women intentionally, in my opinion, making them uncomfortable. So WSU professor once spoke to BK about his behavior, and BK responded with a deflection of personal responsibility, saying his comments had been misunderstood. And the male students complained too. Several conversations they had with BK, one male student said BK did not view any value in women and saw them more as articles. And this is the motive. This is the motive, but they don't want to talk about the motive. They want to say, we don't know the motive. Yes, we do. We do know the motive. The motive was that he's a misogynist and he did not view women as actual human beings. He viewed them as articles, as objects. That's the motive. But nobody wants to say that in this college town, because the chief of police at the Pullman PD, he now works at WSU as their chief of police. Disrespectful even to female instructors. Remember, this man wasn't fired until I believe WSU got tipped off by the Moscow Police Department, because the chief of police of Pullman is now the chief of police at WSU. So multiple students described investigators one incident in which BK's tone and words led a student to leave the classroom and break down in tears. During an open discussion on an eyewitness misidentification, BK became argumentative. He became agitated when he disagreed with a female student's point of view. This is according to what police wrote. But they're, the prosecution's doing a victory tour about how they had to do this plea deal. We don't know what the motive was. Nothing to see here, folks, but there is. Multiple students said BK tried to dominate the conversation and said something very misogynistic. The student accused BK of mansplaining and left the classroom. A faculty member told investigators that the student came to her in tears to talk about this incident, and the student also filed a complaint against BK with the university's Civil Rights and Compliance Group. I mean, I don't know what else WSU wants. These women are coming forward. Faculty members are coming forward. And what is WSU's response? To do nothing. And now what are we hearing? Oh, we don't know the motive. Well, Bill Thompson does his victory tour, his victory lap on this with only friendly outlets that ask him friendly questions. So now we have Bryan Kohberger in prison, and oh my gosh, he is whining about it, you guys. Absolutely whining about it. Let me see if I can bring this up. So he is claiming that he has harassment. His inmate number is 163214. And we have some staff here. So here's a brief summary of the action taken. Now, he's filed a couple of complaints. We're going to go through those next. But August the 3rd, resident Kohberger, IDOC 163214, submitted a concern stating he had been subject to threats and harassment, recently escalating to overtly violent threats. Lieutenant Matlan received the concern on August 4th of 2025 and conducted an interview with BK in J Block. BK stated a resident that goes by Peru said, I'm going to, and BK also stated the unknown resident from Tier 1 of J Block said, I can't even repeat this. The only A will be, but is BK's. On August the 7th, Officer Signora submitted information report outlining his involvement of the alleged incident. Officer Signora recalls vulgar language being used and directed towards BK, but could not positively identify what was said. The allegation is substantiated, but due to no aggressor being able to be positively identified, BK says he feels unsafe to remain in Tier 2 and J Block. No further action was taken. The delay in the 105 submission date and the report date is due to collecting all the information to ensure proper action be taken as needed. So here's the grievance appeal. Let me just make sure I'm not blocking it, and I'm not even showing it. That's even okay. So here's the grievance appeal. that he filed. This is from Bryan Kohberger. You can see there's his prison number, and you can see it's July 3rd of 2025. So in my opinion, he just wants to get moved to, a different cell block, or maybe a better prison. Maybe he wants a club fed. But he said, the problem is I have on several occasions not received all items of food on my tray. I addressed this during service and have yet to receive any replacements. In fact, the kitchen is not even called. He's so entitled. He's just so entitled. The policy book confirms items missing, which are pointed out at the time of service, will be replaced. I wish to, without exception, receive these replacements. So he wants the replacement items. He said he's tried addressing this problem informally by addressing the issue with staff at the time of meal service. He said, I suggest the following solution for the problem. I wish for the items to be called for and the items be replaced when this occurs. The nutrition standard is not being upheld unless and I can't read even with this last word, leave my full tray. Offender's signature, and it says Bryan, and I don't even know if he wrote his last name. So, he's complaining. He's complaining, but there's more. So this is another complaint to Deputy Warren Dietz. He writes, as it continued as the SPI phase, I wish to discuss if I may be transferred to another AC seg setting, such as B block, not engaging in any of the recent flooding. I don't know what he says, as well as being the subject to minute by minute verbal threats and harassment. As other bases, Unit 2 of J Block is an environment that I wish to be transferred from. If possible, I request transfer to B Block immediately. I wish to speak with you soon. So he is really feeling very entitled as a prisoner in this. I mean, he should have be standing trial for capital punishment. I mean, he's lucky that this is where he is, but he is really entitled, in my opinion. So here's the response back to, it says, Mr. Kohberger, on any tier at IMSI, there are sometimes disruptions to operations such as residents flooding. On J2, it is a relatively rare occurrence, and J2 is generally a fairly calm and quieter tier. I do not think that B block would be any better for you. Give it some time. So that was their response. And this was posted by Steve and Christy Gonzalez. So I thought that was really interesting, that he is, just can't stop complaining. Poor me. He's lucky he's there. He's lucky he's in prison, in my opinion, but let me know if you have a different take. So let's continue on together. Okay, so he was perceived as female classmates as dominant and disrespectful to instructors. This is what a faculty member told police. His behavior could be described as misogynistic. So BK was also obsessed with SKs, which I think is really, really interesting. So I'm not surprised, but I'm sure Dr. Ramsland would be very surprised because she saw no red flags. But students and faculty members, so this is what WSU did not want you to find out about. They also described BK's academic interests, including his apparent obsession with SKs and his research on burglars who enjoyed non-consensual SA. This is what he was openly researching at WSU. You guys, the faculty member that sent the test saying if he's smart enough to get this degree, we're going to be handing him a PhD and permission to harass females forever. But they did nothing. The WSU faculty member said BK's final paper in the fall of 2022 was on a study of burglars. Said Kohberger had strong feelings that regular burglars had nothing to do with SA-motivated burglars. This is what the professor told law enforcement. This is why they could not have a trial. This is why now we have the police going around saying, we don't know what the motive is. Yes, we do know what the motive is. It's clear what the motive is. The student who told the police that BK made her feel unsafe said he would try and talk to her about the Ted Bundy red rums, because he knew she was interested in true crime. Of course, he wanted to talk about Ted Bundy. This guy is nothing more than a Ted Bundy wannabe. And so, what was his study at WSU? He liked to talk about SA burglary. This is what he's approaching her. And then he wonders why these young women don't want to go on a date with him. Because that's what his field of study was. And BK was interested in emotions of what it felt like committing a crime like this. This is what he was openly researching at WSU. This is what he was discussing with female students. And this is what he was looking up: non-consensual, passed out, drunk. This is what his proclivities were. And I'm watching my words here. And my sourcing, again, is still the USA Today. And I think in learning that his field of study, that this was his field of study, and the fact that WSU never told us this, that his field of study was burglary and essay, and that he was really interested in this, and the fact that they're now going around saying they don't know what the motive is really disingenuous in light of what everybody was going to get on the stand and testify to. So this whole thing of police pretending they don't know what the motive is, in my opinion, is nonsense. And I'm not knocking the police. They may be having to answer to a higher power, somebody that has more pull and control than they do. So I'm not blaming the police. You know, they may be worried about keeping their jobs. But the motive is not hard to figure out. So he broke into this house at 1122 King Road after everyone was asleep. We know from Dateline NBC that he was looking up passed out, drunk. That's what he was into. And now we're finding out that he openly discussed at openly discussing at WSU that his field of study was burglary and SA. The student told police that after she heard what happened to Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan, she wondered if it could be Kohberger. So the students are wondering if this could be BK. This is what WSU student told law enforcement. But the WSU spokesman, nothing to see here, and he'd never had access to our CSI lab. Oh no, never had access to that. So let's talk about Bryan Kohberger's bizarre behavior, the scratches, and his WSU attendance leading up to this next. So let me grab a sip of water. On November 15th, so this is 2 days after the crimes, which took place on a Sunday, so this was the Tuesday, Bryan Kohberger shows up for class. Remember, he didn't go to class on the Monday after the crimes. He shows up for class extremely late. He skipped the same class 2 days later and sent an email about not being there. So he's skipping class. November 18th, just 5 days after the November 13th crimes, he changes his registration for his vehicle and his license plates from Pennsylvania to Washington, making it more difficult for police to track his white Hyundai Elantra. And, you know, somewhere in between all of this pre-planned road trip where his father has to fly out to drive the white Hyundai Elantra back with Bryan Kohberger. Then Bryan Kohberger completely vanished. You guys, he vanished, and WSU still didn't fire this guy. He vanished for an entire week before someone spotted him for the first time on November 29th of 2022. Where did he go? Where was he for this week? Some people have said that he went to a motel during this time, but I have not been able to find any credible sourcing to confirm this. So he's spotted again for the first time on November 29th of 2022. By November 29th, which is more than 2 weeks after the crimes, BK reported he has noticeable injuries on his body. So let's pull that up. Take this down. Okay, so he has bad cuts on his body. And this may be why he had a shirt buttoned all up. in this thumbs up photo. Now, you guys did notice that he had swelling on the photo, so I enhanced. You even thought he had a Band-Aid on his ring finger. And wait, because this is going to come into play in just a second. So let's talk about this together. And my source on this is okay, but it's not the only sourcing. Other sources reported out something similar this week. So 2 weeks after the crime, BK shows up. He has noticeable injuries on his body. Oh, and let me just go through the poll, because I did do a poll with you guys. Let's do that, go through that really quick and see where we are with that. I'm looking for 1s and 2s. If you, yeah, poor baby. I'm seeing a lot of great comments in here. Okay. Just going to go through the poll. I just want to see where we're at. So 1, 1, lots of 1s. Thank you for modding today, Lori and Michael and Kathleen. 1. Thank you for modding today, Donna. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Thank you for modding today, Kathleen and Christine. 1, kick it, put a 3. I don't know what that means, but maybe you will clarify that for me. Yeah, he's an incel. You're right, Ozzy. This is our other head mod, Njaz, and she is telling you that we have a reporter room channel membership if you would like to become a channel member. So I don't see hardly any 2s. Njaz, our head mod, put 1. 1 for Michelle, 1. Michael, who's our other head mod, says yes, he's an incel. All right, so lots of 1s. Thanks for modding today. Yeah, racist remarks is a lawsuit, and that's why they didn't want to have the. That's why they can't have a trial. And these poor police officers, I feel bad for them. I'm not blaming them, but they're having to go around because they're in a college town, and it's a very small community, and their jobs probably depend on towing the line, right? Lots of 1s. All right, so let's go back to this, and then we will do some questions for sure. Michael said, how does someone in love with his mother hate women? I don't get it. I wonder what was going on in that household. What was really happening in that household with Marianne and Michael Kohberger? Like, what was he being exposed to? How was Marianne being treated? Where did he get this from? Because he was living at home with his parents until he moved to Washington State when he was 28 years old. So this man lived at home till he was 28. Okay, so he vanished for an entire week. Some people think he went to a motel. I cannot find any credible sourcing to confirm this. But by November the 29th, so this is 2 weeks after the crimes, BK still has noticeable injuries on his body. And during an interview with the Idaho State Police, a female classmate claimed that BK had cuts on his hands, which were similar to cat scratches. She said he tried to cover them with Band-Aids. So he was probably using some foundation makeup, using Band-Aids, buttoning his shirt up all the way, and he was also wearing a puffy jacket. So the fact that female classmates told law enforcement that he had cuts on his hands, this similar to cat scratches, I think this does explain those 2 traffic stops that we had with many people and his father. These 2 traffic stops that were made minutes apart in Indiana, as his dad and him were traveling across the country from Pullman, Washington to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania on their pre-planned trip. Sure. Another one of BK's classmates named Andrew informed law enforcement. Another one of BK's classmates, I'm not going to name her, said that she saw BK with bloody knuckles at one point in November. However, she wasn't sure if it was just before or just after the November 13th crimes. So WSU, I think, would have been hearing about this too. The hands looked really beat up, like he was hitting something, the WSU graduate explained. We were going to look at photos. I enhanced the thumb, and you guys know I enhanced that thumbs up selfie. If you want to go back and look at that video, it's in my playlist. Let me see if I can just find it for you really quick. It's in my playlist. I have a whole playlist on this case. And I did enhance the photos of the thumbs up and show them to you. Let me take this down. All right, so you can see here I have a whole playlist of live streams on this case. and also videos on this case. Lots and lots of stuff on this particular case that you guys can go through, and including on that is this information on the of his photos. So I'm not going to play them again for you. Let me fix my camera. It looks like I bumped it. All right. Okay. So this is just like, it just keeps getting worse for WSU. So another classmate, so just to be clear, this is the third eyewitness account, says, so these were all people that were going to get up on the stand. This is why it couldn't go to trial. So said that he saw BK with injuries, and this classmate sat 3 feet away from BK, recalled in a police interview how BK returned from Thanksgiving break with bruised knuckles, redness halfway up the back of his left hand from his knuckles, and a cut on his ring finger. And some of you guys pointed out that you thought there was a Band-Aid in the enhanced photos that I did on the selfie. And it sounds like you were right. We now are finding out that he was covering them with a Band-Aid and that he did have a cut on his ring finger. So good job, you guys. Good sleuthing on your part. So this is the third eyewitness who reportedly asked BK what happened. And BK claimed that he was a boxer. He's a boxer and he got the cuts boxing. BK had bad cuts, bloody knuckles by December, causing one classmate to jokingly ask him if he'd been punching drywall in anger. We know now what he was doing to Kaylee, to Maddie, to Xana, and to Ethan. BK replied by stating that it was an indoor accident, but she didn't believe him because the injuries appeared to have been caused by something else. Yet the classmate noticed scratches on Kohberger's hands and face. So I'm wondering if he wore like a little bit of makeup. People have wondered in this thumbs up image. Let me put that up. I don't know. I think I just took that one down. On the thumbs up selfie, people have if he was, why he looks so ghostly white. Well, maybe he was putting foundation on to cover up the scratches. But when she asked him about the scratches to his hands and face, so these were all people who came forward to talk to law enforcement. BK told her she was in a car accident. And of course, we know there was no car accident. More lies from BK. So for the rest of the semester, BK reportedly wore a puffy jacket, potentially in an effort to cover up any bodily trauma, in my opinion, that he appeared to endure. So BK complimented himself. He had praise for himself on, this is just gross. So he allegedly bragged that his twisted handiwork was pretty good. It was pretty good, you guys. So many red flags. So the female students told police that BK started talking about what happened to Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, saying that whoever did this deed must have been pretty good. That's her exact quote, must have been pretty good. Then she said they chatted about how the University of Idaho students were about to go on winter break. So the person, the schmurderer, made a, quote, good choice. This is what Bryan Kohberger said, a good choice, committing these crimes when he did. In other words, his timing was impeccable. So BK's complimenting himself while he's talking about this with a student. This is what WSU could not have coming up on the stand. Because remember, they didn't get rid of this guy till law enforcement identified him as a suspect on December 19th. That's when they fired him. They kept him on. They've provided no evidence that any action other than, some emails to him that he was failing to meet expectations happened. So while BK is making comments, he admitted the crimes were awful, going on to say that the red rum could have been done a one-on-one, a one-and-done situation while discussing whether or not the person who committed these crimes would get caught. And the female student went on to tell law enforcement that she had several discussions with BK connected to their studies about violent offenders, as well as burglary, SA. We're back to this, people who break into their houses. And so them saying they don't know what the motive is, There's no evidence of any type of SA. There may not be evidence of it, but the fact that this is what he was working on openly at WSU, this was his interest. This is what he was writing his paper on. This is really disturbing. And this is what WSU hoped that you would never find out. BK said she told how, and that BK told her how an offender might avoid detection and may go through different emotions. She also said that he once asked her if she was single. And even though she talked about her partner, so she was with somebody, she was involved in a relationship with somebody, he continued to ask if she was interested in seeing him outside of school. Remember the power dynamic here. She's a student and he's a teaching assistant with the power to grade her. She's seeing someone and he is not taking no for an answer. She said that she told him no and related something to him. The comment is redacted, but she said promptly, BK said that he did not date. This is what he said back to her. He did not date broken women. So make no mistake, this I don't date broken women was intentional. It was meant to insult her, just like the you have great birthing hips when the other woman went in the bathroom that he went on a date with when he wouldn't leave her dormitory. She went in the bathroom and pretended to throw up so he would go. And he texted her that she had nice birthing hips. This is intentionally meant to insult her and to degrade her because he is a thin-skinned, whiny, pathetic little loser. So now the families of the victims are filing a lawsuit, according to Fox 13. This is just beyond the pale, you guys. Fox 13 reporter reported that attorney Leander James, who represents the families of Maddie and Ethan. Now, attorney James said the lawsuit was filed on behalf of these two families. He filed an injunction, and my sourcing on this is Fox 13. He filed a lawsuit on behalf of these two families. I think it's ridiculous that they had to file a lawsuit to order the city of Moscow to stop releasing photographs and body cam footage from Maddie's bedroom, where she and Kaylee were done away with. I mean, to file a lawsuit to stop showing photos from Xana's bedroom, where Ethan and Xana were done away with. I mean, where's the common decency for the family members of the victims? You know, we've heard over and over the Gonzalez family has told us that they did not feel included. They felt like, you know, things were being done outside. And now this is proof. This is proof that family members are just being discarded. What they want and what they, you know, their decency and just basic human dignity for these four precious young people. And I have not shown any of the photos on this channel and will not show the photos of this channel on this channel because the family members don't want it. And I'm not going to do that to them. They've been through enough. So he filed a temporary restraining order and an emergency filing that why just couldn't they just simply tell law enforcement not to? Why do they have to go through these steps of hiring a lawyer? I think the next thing we're going to hear is there's going to be a lawsuit against University of Idaho and maybe WSU. That's my opinion. Mark this post, mark this live stream. He also filed a temporary restraining order and emergency filing that allows the judge to immediately pause the release of certain materials. And in this case, the judge granted the order, agreeing with the families that the release of the images would be an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. That means the photos will not be released until a hearing on the injunction takes place. So these families, this didn't end with this plea deal. This plea deal didn't end everything for the families. That was what it was supposed to be, right? We're doing this plea deal. Half the families want it, half of it don't. They didn't care about the family members of these victims, in my opinion. If they did, they wouldn't release these photos when the family members are begging them not to. The Gonzaleses have openly said, please don't release these photos. They've gone on TV and asked those photos not be released, and they released them anyway. So the legal action comes after the city of Moscow released nearly 200 photos from the King Road home And the attorney James told Fox 13 that the families received no advance notice from the cities about the release of those images. So notice isn't legally required. They don't have to legally give notice to the family members. But again, how about some common decency? And this goes back to what we've been hearing from the Gonzalez's from the start, that they weren't being included in the process. They were being left out of the process. So here we are, and this is proof. So let's talk about what the family members are saying. When the door was shut behind Mr. Kohberger and he went to prison for the rest of his life, Karen Scott felt like they could take a deep breath and move on with their lives. This was a positive day. This is according to attorney Leander James. So again, the family members thought this plea deal, the ones that agreed to this plea deal, thought that this was going to be, the end of it. And now they're finding out, oh no, it's not the end for us. And unfortunately, this prospect of these images of their child being put out into the world has visited them with a great deal of work and has sent them back to the beginning again. And attorney James said he reached out to the city before filing a lawsuit, but they couldn't reach an agreement. So this whole thing of we did a plea deal, this is helpful to the families. Half the families agreed to it. They agreed to it because Bryan Kohberger couldn't file an appeal, and they thought this was going to be over. They didn't agree to it to then have the city of Moscow release images of their loved ones who had been done away with by this man for all the public to gawk at and look at. Where's the common decency and respect? I'm sorry if that makes me emotional. I've spent so much time with these victims' images while they were alive. And I also did look at the photos that were released. And I just decided that I was not going to share them. And I have not, and I will not. But it's absolutely beyond the pale that Xana's family and that Ethan's family and that Maddie's family and that Kaylee's family have to be worried that pictures of their loved ones who have been done away with in the most horrific fashion possible are going to be, their pictures are going to be splashed all over for everyone to look at. So the city refused to reach an agreement with them. Images are powerful emotional triggers, and I'm just one lawyer, he said. I can only do as much as I can do. I'm trying to stop what I can. I kind of feel like, honestly, I'm standing in front of a flood coming at me with a Dixie cup. So that tells me even the lawyer is feeling powerless. And that's why I don't blame the police for towing the line on this. We don't know what the motive is. While the chief of police is doing his victory lap on this, while the prosecutor is doing a victory lap on this. I don't blame the police. They have to say what they have to say to keep their jobs. I put this squarely at the feet of WSU, at the Idaho University of Idaho, and at the city of Moscow. So the injunction was originally scheduled for Thursday, but Attorney James said he received a request from the city on Tuesday afternoon to postpone it. He said, for those who are criticizing us for stopping the release of further images, I'd ask them to search their hearts and look to do what's the right thing and what is the legal thing to do. So this is what the temporary restraining order says. It says that on August 12th, and let's do a poll. If you think that if you were the parent of one of these, of Kaylee, of Maddie, of Ethan and Xana, would you want pictures of your loved one that's been done away with in the most horrific way possible? Would you want those pictures to be released by the city of Moscow? If so, put an A in the chat. If you would not like those pictures to be released to anyone ever, put a B in the chat. So this is what the temporary restraining order says. On August 12th of this is from the city of Moscow. The August 12th, 2025, the city of Moscow was served a notice of petition to the Latah County District Court for a temporary restraining order and injunction to prevent the release of additional public records related to the state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. On behalf of Karen Laramie, so that's Maddie's mom, the mother of Madison Mogen. This action followed the recent release of redacted crime scene photos by the city of Moscow in response to legal public records request. On August 15th of 2025, Idaho 2nd District Judge Marshall issued a temporary restraining order prohibiting the city's release of any images, audio, or video depicting the inside of Madison Mogen's bedroom until a hearing on the preliminary injunction can be held. Judge Marshall, and just let this sink in. These family members were under a gag order through 2023. They're the victims. They're the parents of the victims. So they're the loved ones of the victims. They're not allowed to talk about this case. But the University of Idaho president, he can write a book about it, and they're stuck under a gag order. And they don't even have any control about these images being released of their loved ones. Judge Marshall found that major portions of what had been released did not constitute an unwarranted invasion of privacy. However, Judge Marshall stated that there are portions of video and photographs in the redacted form, specifically unreleased body cam footage, that could constitute an unwarranted invasion of privacy at this time. While the temporary restraining order only applies to Madison Mogen's bedroom, the city will not provide any further releases of photographs or videos depicting the inside of any of the victims' bedrooms until the matter is fully reviewed and decided by the court. So they're not going to stop. They're going to keep releasing these. They're going to keep releasing these, keep victimizing these families. There's no, where's the empathy here? Where's the compassion for the victims? Where is this plea deal benefits you because, it's going to be over. Yeah, Michael's saying, please don't time out people for having a different opinion. And this is a critical thinkers channel. I just provide you guys with all the information so you can make up your own mind. So please listen to this is our head mod, Michael. And he is a head mod along with NJAZ. Thank you so much to all of our mods today. So Patty put A. No, says Crafty One. NJAZ put B. Linda says no way. I'm just gonna, no way. B is no way. A means you're fine. Release the photos. I'm seeing B's. Jetsa said, sorry, but I blame the police, the prosecution, and the defense and the university. That's fine. I just, I feel badly. Like if you were a police officer and you were relying on this for your insurance, you're relying on the city of Moscow for your insurance, you would want to toe the line, right? You wouldn't, your health insurance, your benefits, your pension, your job, unless you want to leave the city. So I feel like they're between a rock and a hard place on this. So I'm seeing B's. I see a couple of A's. Mostly B's. Dana said, I don't see how the university has more power than the police investigating this or the DA. Yeah, I don't get it either. Jeff wants to know, can BK look at these images while he's in jail? Probably. He could relive the crime. I mean, next up, we're going to find out he's clipping images out of the newspaper and hanging them on his wall. Nobody should be looking at these, in my opinion. If the family members don't want it, leave it. ASP said, I don't need to see anything. Words are enough. Yeah, I agree. Michael thinks it's sickening. BK is sitting in a cell to look at them. Yeah. Sinja says, your reporting has been very respectful. These photos should be sealed away. B, thank you so much. Donna said they should be flooding BK's craziness and the reports, not pictures. Yep. Instead, they're going around, they're taking a victory lap and telling us that they don't know what the motive is. But he's writing a paper on burglary and SA, but they don't know what the motive is. Come on. He had plans for Maddie. Let's just be real. He had plans for Maddie. His plans were interrupted. That's why, or Kaylee, one of the two, maybe both. He had plans. They were interrupted. Thank you so much, Michael, for the $1.90 sign super sticker. Thank you so much. I'm going to be putting that toward my doctor bills. For those of you that don't know, I fell about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I guess maybe almost 2 weeks ago now. And I got hurt and tore ligaments and tendons. They don't think it's broken. They maybe a crack, like a hairline fracture, but regardless, they would treat it the same way that we're treating it now. So I'm going to be putting this toward my deductible for my insurance. But so thank you for that, Michael. Thank you, NJAZ, for gifting 5 reporter room memberships. Wow, that's so kind of you. If you got a reporter room membership, please make sure you say thank you to NJAZ, and thank you so much, NJAZ. Thank you, Julie, for the $5 super sticker. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much, Julie. I am very grateful, and I hope you guys are okay with this. Normally, I put it toward the channel. This month, I need to put it toward medical bills, so I hope you guys understand. Donna, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. I am really, really grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael, for the $1.99 super sticker. That is so kind of you. And if you're watching, come on up and talk to me, because Edja's gifted 5 reporter room memberships. Now she gifted another reporter room membership. So that's 6. And then she gifted another reporter room membership. That's 7. So thank you so much for those reporter room memberships. Thank you so, so much. So that is really, really nice of you. And we're not done, but I do just want to say thank you to our producers. Hold on. And Jazz, Sasha Angel, George Brown. Oop, I was too slow on that. George Brown, Michael L. Cole, and Christy Valentine. Thank you to our channel members so much. And if you would like to be a channel member, being a subscriber is completely free, you guys. It's completely free. Being a channel member does cost a couple of, I think it's like $2 or $3. It's not very much. It's not expensive at all. And if you would like to have your name appear just like this, I update this usually one day before every live stream. So this one will be updated again before I go live, which will be on Sunday night. Now, after we're done here, I'm going to be doing a live stream on Emmanuel Harrow. This is a 7-month-old baby, and he has disappeared, and the circumstances are extremely disturbing. So we're going to be talking about him next. I'm not going to do it in this live stream. I'm going to open up a separate live stream. And I also want to do super thanks and coffee gratitude from our last live streams, which we did on the Delphi case and on the Bryan Kohberger case, and gifted channel membership gratitude. Thank you so, so much for your kindness, you guys. All right. So the interview room, let me pull this up, they also talked about the police. I thought this was really interesting. Let me pull this up. So for those of you that don't know, this is Chris McDonough and his wife, Karen McDonough, and she was a journalist. And so, they're also calling out the police. Let me back it up a little bit. Can you guys hear this? Just a quick yes or no. And also, please let me know what number of thumbs up you are. Can you guys hear this? Just a quick yes or no. I don't want to play this and then find out that I played the video and that you guys could not hear it. I'm going to play just a snippet and then I'll back it up. So can you guys hear this okay? No? Oh, let me turn it up. How about now? Can you hear it now? Okay, you can't hear it. Oh, that is such a shame because they did such a great job with this. Okay, I don't know. Let me try refreshing. Not sure why you guys can't hear this. Can you hear it now? No. Okay. So what they're talking about, that's okay. I won't play it. I wish you guys could see it. It is really, really well done. I wanted to play it for you guys. But what they basically cover, I'll just do the synopsis of it, is that they are calling out the police for how the family members of the victims were being treated. And so they believe that the Chief Fry set the tone for how the family members of these victims were treated. And they feel like the family members were not being treated well. They also, have taken issue with this whole thing of we don't know what the motive is. And for those of you that don't know, Chris McDonough is a retired police officer, and Karen is, like me, she's a journalist. So, it is great to have their input and seeing that they're seeing the same things that I am seeing, which is, I don't think they're calling out WSU as much as I am, and University of Idaho, but, they're calling out the law enforcement, that they are setting the tone. And I do believe that the other officers are, what are you going to do when your bosses are the city of Moscow thinks it's fine to release the crime scene photos of the victims to please who? To please the media, to please the public. So this is all about public pleasing. And I don't feel like there's a lot of empathy or consideration being given to the families of the victims at all. I don't think there has been during this whole process. And I think that's why Steve Gonsalves was so worried for himself and his wife, Christy, that they went and hired a lawyer at Shannon Gray, because they were concerned that something like this was going to happen. And they were right to be concerned. They were right to be concerned. This is exactly what happened. Mother of Cycleberger says, if people are asking for them, the Moscow is only follow the law. As if people were not requesting them, they would not be releasing them. That's true. Yeah, he's with the Cold Case Foundation. That's right. Lori said, any law that supports releasing photographs like that should be changed. I agree. Hi, I love tacos. Hi, Hound Lover. ASP Lizzie said, all this WSU info is coming to light. It's just crazy how much there was. Yeah, there were so many red flags. And this is why this case had to be settled. There is no way that WSU was going to stand by silently and allow student after student and faculty member after faculty member get on the stand and talk about the red flags they saw related to Bryan Kohberger. There was no way they were going to let that happen. So they had to shut it down. And that's why this plea deal was reached. I don't think this was ever about the consideration of the family members. That's just my opinion. We don't all have to agree on every little detail of the case, but that is my opinion. I don't think this ever was a care or consideration. If they cared about the family members, they would not be releasing photographs when Maddie Mogen's family, her mother, Karen Laramie, is begging them not to release it. The lawyer tries to negotiate with them, and they can't even come to an agreement about it. He has to file a lawsuit. You think this is what the Mogens thought they were getting when they agreed to a plea deal? I don't think so. Yeah, please give this a thumbs up. Let YouTube know I am doing a G-rated show. WSU isn't going to like it. And they have a lot of power and influence. So, I could, if you guys don't help me out with some thumbs up, please subscribe. I could end up getting deboosted on this. It happened. I've been had it when I tried to do the Madeline Soto case. I got demonetized. Now, getting demonetized isn't in and of itself a bad thing, but the fact that when you get demonetized, what happens to your video? It disappears, right? Because YouTube doesn't want to put out videos that aren't monetized, that they can't make a profit on, So when something like that happens and you're going up against, the man, and you're trying to, talk about things that, the man doesn't want you to talk about, that the powers that be, as Howard Blum tried to sound the alarm. People shouted him down too. Tried to sound the alarm that the powers of be did not want this to go to trial. This was he interviewed with me before the plea deal was reached. And he was right. He called it. Tosh Penny said, I think the problem is that the hierarchy is the colleges first. Right. They own the city. So the city of Moscow is doing then the colleges want to distract. They don't want me as a content creator talking about their feelings. They don't want me pointing out that University of Idaho president wrote a book while the family members are stuck under a gag order till 2023. They don't want me to point out that the University of Idaho didn't, like, he got an idea and was on their campus. They didn't want that to be out. They don't want me talking about that. WSU definitely does not want me pointing out all of the things. There were so many red flags with this guy. Every time another week goes by, we get another batch of information that comes out that it turns out it's even worse than we thought. The fact that he was writing a paper on SA and burglary, that's what he was into. The fact that this professor was texting, trying to sound the alarm on Bryan Kohberger. They had so many chances to do the right thing, and they didn't do the right thing. So getting demonetized is not about the money. It is about getting deboosted. And that's the point of it, right? That's the point of it. To try to keep anybody from seeing these videos. So if you do give a thumbs up, if you subscribe, that lets YouTube know that you support this kind of content and you support me as a content creator. And it does help me. It does help me. I can file an appeal, but by the time I file an appeal, the video is one and done and there's more new news. And the WSU understands this. Linda, thank you so much for the $1.99 super sticker. That is really, really kind of you. Thank you so, so much. Thank you, Black Cat, for the $10 super sticker. Thank you so, so much. I'll be putting that toward, I am putting this one toward my medical bills. I have a deductible that I have to make, so I will be putting that toward my deductible. Usually I put it back into the channel, but this month I just can't do that. I have to, I have to pay my bills. Wasn't expecting to have medical bills. Kaylee, thank you so much for the gifted channel membership. If you got a gifted channel membership, make sure you say thank you to Kaylee. And Kaylee has been a member of Reporter Room for 27 months. Wow. She says, wow, love this channel and community. For those of you that don't know, we have a Facebook group. If you type in Reporter Room and Bryan Kohberger, it has around 1,000 members, a private Facebook group. You can come in and you can hang out. And if I'm not here, I'm on there. And we also, and if you're a channel member, we have a second group for channel members only. That once you go into the main Reporter Room Facebook group, you can ask one of the mods or admins in there, and they'll direct you over to the channel membership group. So thank you so much, Kaylee. And Jazz, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the 20 pounds super sticker. Thank you so, so much. That is very, very kind of you. And thank you to Texas Life Julie for gifting a Reporter Room membership. So if you guys are watching, come on up and talk to me. You might end up with a free membership from one of these kind people. And let me just make a note of the Reporter Room memberships too, because once this is over, I don't get a notification on this. So NJAZ, Texas Life Julie. Oop, I have my override on. Don't want that. And I had one more. Let me look. Who else gifted channel memberships? NJAZ, Texas Life Julie, and Kaylee. So thank you so much. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that so I can add you guys to the gratitude post for next week. So thank you so much, you guys. Yeah, and then Cami, thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. That is so kind of you. Cami too, thank you so much. She says thank you. Sarah, thank you so much for the £1.99 super sticker. Thank you very, very much. And you guys are welcome to put questions with us if you want to, or comments with your super thanks. And thank you to Sinjayas Elmo for the $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, you guys. Hey, Pamela. Linda says she would love to get a free channel membership. Well, I'm glad you're here. The best way to get one is to just be in the top chat, be commenting. And what YouTube does is when their channel memberships are gifted, they give the person who's gifting it a list of names to choose from. So they don't get to just pick anybody that they want, but it's usually somebody that's in the top chat who's being active. So the more active you are in the top chat, the more comments that you're leaving in the top chat, then your name shows up on this list for the channel the member that's gifting the memberships, like NJazz and Kaylee and Texas Life Julie, they get to pick somebody off this list. And thank you so much, Hound Lover, for the $5 super sticker. Love your channel. You got to take care of you. Yeah, I thank you so much, Hound Lover. That's really kind of you. I was like so trying to just keep working, trying to keep pushing content out. And I put out a batch of outtakes the other day. I took it down, but I put out a batch of all my outtakes that I was going to compile and put out separately as like an outtake video, and ended up putting it out as an actual video. And I wondered why YouTube wasn't pushing it out, because it had a really good, what we call a click-through rate, which means people are watching it, good watch time, good click-through rate. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my gosh, I uploaded the wrong video. So I have not been myself the last like week and a half, but I am definitely, feeling a lot better. I'm off the crutches. And definitely feeling a lot better. So thank you. Cheers to you, Pam. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to be doing Emmanuel Harrow next. In fact, I'm going to head over there right now and get started on that next. So if you are following, if you don't know, oh my gosh, if you don't know, let me pull this up. Let me pull this up. This is just, this is so sad.
You wake up every day angry. I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said hola.
To say to whoever has my children that they please.
We just hoping that he
functioning autistic.
I was gonna get the diaper and somebody said hola. Happy and alive.
Wherever you are, just know that we are not going to stop.
So we are going to be going through this baby disappeared. We have seen this before. We are going to be going through this case of his mysterious disappearance. There's a lot of updates on it. That is the baby. Let me see if I can just show it. I can barely show this baby. Again, getting demonetized because they don't want any child content on YouTube. So I can show him only if I'm showing a clip from the news network. We went through all the traffic cameras of where they are, where they're located on the last video that I put out, which was day before yesterday on this. But I have so many updates today that we're going to go through. So I'm going to, we've seen all this before. It's very, very sad. And this we're going to go through today. We're going to be looking at the bruise, and we're going to be staging the bruise on the mother's eye and trying to figure out when this baby was last seen. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to click out of this live stream, and then I'm going to head over and begin a separate live stream for missing baby Emmanuel Harrow. So please join me over there. There's a lot of breaking news in this, and we're going to go through everything. If you want everything in one take, this is it. This is your